Well, aloha everyone, and welcome to Biology 300. This video will serve as an orientation for the course design for this semester. I've opened up two major web pages for you. This one here is in your Canvas, so it might look familiar, and it's under the Assignments tab. Now, there's several other things here, but the Assignments tab is really where you're going to be paying attention and being given the information on what you need in terms of guidance for this week. So you probably hopefully have already clicked on the pair up here. You'll need a semester partner and the course introductions. These are two sets of discussions that are set up for you to introduce yourself to the class and then coordinate with your semester partner. So if you have not yet made a semester partner, hurry over there and try to find someone. And if you are unable to find one, please reach out to me and I will help you coordinate if there is anyone left or set you up as a set of three if we have to do that. That's not a problem. And definitely take some time to check out those course introductions because I asked you guys to drop a couple bad science jokes and boy, you did not disappoint. Anyway, so this week was just an introduction and we had a short little Zoom meeting. If you didn't make it, that's fine. I'm going to go over all the same stuff that I already went over. So if you attended that Zoom meeting and it feels repetitive, that's because it is, but I want to introduce you to a couple new changes that I've made this afternoon. So this is what's going to tell you what's deliverable every week. Again, this week we didn't have anything due. We just wanted you to get an idea what the project was going to be and then to dive in. For those of you that are just joining us, the objective here is to create a grant proposal at the end of the semester. We'll be walking you through that piece by piece as we step through this project. And again, this is telling you week by week what is deliverable. You'll see some things are in lowercase type and others are in caps. The caps are because you're going to be doing peer review sessions where you are editing and therefore, you have to produce your deliverable by those days. So these are things where you can have a little bit of leeway. If you don't get things in on time, I understand. But for these weeks in caps, you are going to have to produce your end product so that the person who's going to be editing your assignment is able to complete their obligations. All right, so before we hop into that, I want to kind of walk over to the course information here in your Google Drive. Now, most of these items are also going to be available to you in the Canvas shell, but what is not available to you is this drawing board section where I've given each of you your own folder. And I intend for you guys to work within these folders if possible. First of all, Google Drive is going to automatically make updates, which means that you do have to save things as draft 1 or draft 2 if you intend to show the difference between them. But it also means that someone who's editing is able to make slight changes on the fly if they realize that you have the spelled wrong, for example. And also means that the commentary can be continuous and you can both be working in the same file folder. It also means that everyone's going to have access to your up-to-date files, so if they're responsible for being your peer editor, they're able to just click on your name and go in there. So I won't be monitoring these throughout the semester, but I do expect you to kind of keep them neat and tidy. And on the dates and deadlines when we have things such as this, especially if you have a lot of stuff inside your folder, I have made it that I would expect you to put your last name, so mine will be Griffiths, and then intro for peer review. So for that, then save it as a different deliverable for a different deadline. That way the people would know that one was the peer review for the introduction of this one is going to be the peer review of everything through experimental aims, etc. Additionally, you'll notice that these are split up into peer review of a partner and peer review of a classmate, and that's actually intentional because throughout the semester you will be not only working with a partner whose project you will become intimately aware of, you will be working on different projects, but you'll be editing their project week by week by week by week. So one project you will oversee throughout the entire semester. However, just to give you a feel for what else is going on in the class, you'll also be editing one other randomized student, and it'll be a different student every week, and you'll be looking over their deliverable for that week as well. So you'll have to edit and review 2 of your peers' work, but that also means that you'll be getting back 2 reviews per session. What that means is that in order to make this a streamlined process, you really do have to have your deliverables uploaded and available in this drawing board, labeled appropriately in time for the review session to occur. All right, also within here is the course information, so that's where I just was. This is, again, most of the stuff you're going to be able to find within the files section of your Canvas folder as well, but just so you have it available to you while you're working in the drawing board, I figured it would be nice to have it accessible. That's going to include the syllabus here, so let's take a look at this. I'm not going to read through it, obviously, but I'll talk to you about it. So here's where we are starting now. I apologize, scrolling up to, there you go. So this is where we were today. We'll be talking about the syllabus and the course overview, etc. And additionally, there's a reading assignment that's associated with each week. Now, I'm not going to be talking to you about that reading assignment. It's just going to be a supplemental material. I do expect you to read this book throughout the course of the semester. It's greatly going to benefit your career and your science. It looks like this. I have it provided for you as a PDF document in that drive and then also on Canvas. So you don't have to go out and purchase it, and you can read it at your own leisure. But it really is going to be very helpful in terms of the steps that you're going to need to take as you're going through the scientific writing methods. So that's all going to be depicted here for your suggested reading for the week. However, the reading, you're adults, so just get through the textbook throughout the course of the semester. This week, the writing task and the homework task, which will turn into next week's deliverable, is that I would like you to start figuring out what your project is going to be about. So start searching PubMed and the databases to be able to find some sort of spark of inspiration, and then particularly pay attention to discussion boards where people talk about what they would do next and maybe what they haven't done yet as an idea of where you might be able to go. And then also start putting together your bibliography. Now that's not going to be due for a couple of weeks, but it's something you want to pay attention to as you go along so that you're able to compile at least a working list of the references that you're intending to source when you get to the point where you're writing your introduction, for example. Because next week I'd like it if you can get, at least for the title of the paper, but pick the subject area for your final paper. And then also, of course, pick your partner or partners and send that to me by email. So this is just going to be the beginning of what we need to get done for this set of what's going on. And that's actually going to be found here in the partners and topics and sources. So I'm actually asking for you a little bit more out of Canvas than I guess I have on the syllabus. But for the first week's deliverable, what I'm asking for is your name, your partner's name, the proposal topic, and then a rough list of those resources. Now, I'm not going to be counting the list. I'm not going to be going through that. But I want you to know that throughout the semester, you should be compiling resource lists when you are actually flipping through the resources. It saves you a lot of time later on when you go, where did I hear that? And then you have to go track it down. All right, so as I mentioned, every single week you're going to get information on what is going to be due that week. All right, so I know that's a lot. Let me head back to the course information here. Additionally, again, here's that Successful Scientific Writing PDF. So again, you don't have to purchase the book if you don't want to. And then I have here a sample of what your paper is going to look like when it's completed without having any information in it. So this is just basically going to be an orientation to the layouts of the project. And what I'm asking for, basically, if I were you, I would copy and paste this into a new document and get started from here. So what I'm going to ask for next week is going to be the title. We're going to skip the abstract until the end. I know it seems weird to do the very first thing last, but the abstract is kind of like a cliff notes or a summary of your whole project. And if you haven't written the book yet, it's really hard to put the cliff notes together. So that's going to be something we'll do at the very end of the semester. What you're going to focus on pretty much immediately is going to be this introduction section. So I want you to do the background research on your topic and figure out what references you're going to use, what those references actually state, and then put together an adequate introduction to your topic. And that's, I believe, deliverable for week 3. Yeah, so that's going to be week 3. Actually, the introduction is not week 3, just the bibliography. And then along with that, you're also going to want to start a cheat sheet. So let me just talk about that for a second. So not just having a list of the bibliographic references themselves, but also maybe a second Word document where you have the headline of the author and the year, and then you also put underneath it a quick little 2 or 3 sentence synopsis of what they have actually done and what their project has discovered, etc. So what are the major findings of that report? So it can kind of be your cheat sheet for flipping through things when you need to put your references together. And then from that cheat sheet, you can actually use that to draft the introduction. So that's a really nice way to segue into the actual full sentence structure of an introduction when you just have a bunch of notes that have information that are kind of pinging at you. You can start pulling from them and putting them together. So it's all going to kind of synthesize one step at a time. I know it sounds like a lot right now, but just bear with me and we will get through this together. All right, so let's go back to this file folder here. The overview is that you're going to have an abstract, an introduction, an experimental aim. So there should be at least 2, if not 3, experimental design that you're going to actually lay out in this experimental section. And that's going to basically be a detailed materials and methods of what you've set out to do in the introduction. So what is going to follow whatever your hypothesis is. This is going to be very hypothesis-driven, evidence-driven science. Last, you're going to have the predicted results section and the discussion and significance, where you are basically, this is a grant proposal, right? You're asking for money. So this is when you're getting your reader on the hook, where you say, this is very important. Please fund my study because XYZ is going to help these people or whatnot. And then after that, of course, the works cited. So in order, we're going to start on the introduction and the reference section. And then from the introduction, we'll spring into the experimental section and then the predictive results, etc. And that's all outlined here. If you look through the assignments, you can actually see kind of an overview of when the major things are going to be due throughout the semester, right? And then the very last set of things that we're going to be doing is the actual abstract. That won't be due until much later in the semester. Additionally, each of you are going to be meeting with me one-on-one hopefully twice a semester, and that's been designated in here as well. It'll start saying, hey, after you've submitted this, please email your professor and ask if you can set up a time. It'll probably take about 15 minutes. I'd prefer to do it by Zoom or Duo or whatever, where I can actually also be another peer reviewer, if you will, of your project, just to make sure you're steering yourself in the right direction throughout the semester, so you don't wind up with something that's insufficient at the end. So twice this semester you're going to be meeting with me personally. You will not be meeting with by Zoom throughout the semester. I'll be posting short video lectures of things that I might intend to bring to your attention, but mainly you'll be following along these guidelines and working intimately with your partner, and then through commentary that we're going to be exchanging here in the Google Drive section, where you're going to be putting things in your own folders. Before I leave, I want to point my attention to two different sample proposals. One that was accepted, and then I'm not really sure if this was accepted or not, but the reason I chose to show it to you is because it's undergone review, which means that you can see the strengths and the weaknesses and what the reviewers think are important here, and the notes that they've taken. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of what the reviewers are thinking of when they're looking at this sort of work. So there's things that they like and things that they don't like, etc. So this is another example. And again, these are going to be pretty short. These are going to be approximately 2 to 3 page documents. And I know it sounds crazy to think, oh, it's going to take an entire semester to write a 2 or 3 page document. But as my old PhD advisor used to say, she used to say, Genevieve, there is no good writing. There is only good rewriting and even better rewriting. So realistically, getting that first 2 pages down might happen in the first month or so, but working through it and fine-tuning it piece by piece by piece, and I've given, as you go through, some ideas of how to do that. So when you're going to be doing peer review, for example, I have a couple questions for you to make constructive edits, what to check for, what to get rid of, and what to make comments on, right? Also, to do some backup for them. So do a literature search. Even though I've already asked them to do a literature search, they're presenting you with an introduction section. They've already done the literature search, but maybe find something else that they missed, or maybe pay attention to resources that aren't there. So I give specific sets of what to be doing as you're going through these peer review sessions. And of course, any questions you have, you can go ahead and ask me for that as well. So that is going to summarize an overview of what I expect from you throughout this semester. I do hope that you guys have had the chance to figure out who your partners are and are going to take this week to dive into the scientific information in PubMed and see if you can't pick out a topic and start working on a reference list. Thank you so much for your time. Aloha.